You look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, you look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. It's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there.
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Good afternoon. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Get ready for an action-packed edition of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as the college football playoffs are upon us. And so is the final week of the National Football League season. We'll dive into it all on today's show and also give you the very latest on the NBA. In fact, Bill Bender will weigh in on all of the games coming up on the 31st and the 1st. Simon Applebaum's also in the house with the very latest on Christmas Day viewership. We've got Dustin Gawker talking prediction markets and sports as well. And also Jack McMullen from Just Baseball weighs in on the hot stove, which has been a little slow, but it's the holidays. Can't really complain about that. But let's get started with our top stories of the day. We'll start off with a sigh of relief, somewhat, for the Denver Nuggets. Now, last night they lose to the Miami Heat, 147-123 in South Florida. But ESPN reported just 30 minutes ago that a very tough injury to Nikola Jokic appears to be not as serious as initially feared. He potentially could miss a month with a hyperextension in his left knee. So that is the latest on Jokic, who will miss all of January, and then hopefully for him get back on the court after that. By the way, you have to play 65 games to win the MVP in the NBA. So this could potentially take him out of the running for that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the overwhelming favorite now at minus 425. So Jokic, not an ACL or anything like that was initially feared. Hyperextension, 4-week injury to arguably the best or second best player in the NBA, depending on how you feel about it. Jokic, by the way, averaging almost 30 points a game, 60% from the field goals, and also basically hits a triple-double every single day. All right, last night in the National Football League, we got a game where we did not expect one. How about the Atlanta Falcons jump out to a 21-0 lead? They end up salvaging, because that's really what it was, a win against the Los Angeles Rams, who drove all the way down the field at the end of the game and almost pulled off one of the massive upsets of the season, 27-24. Probably shouldn't call it an upset because the Rams were 7-point favorites in this game, but at halftime, you probably had no thought whatsoever that the Falcons would lose. Bijan Robinson rewarded his fantasy owners with his biggest game of the season. And now the Rams will go into the playoffs as the 6th seed. So it looks like they'll probably have to face off with either Chicago or Philadelphia. Falcons, by the way, could factor in last game of the season. Although they can't make the playoffs, they do control the destiny of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, now back to the game last night. Sean McVay didn't like the way that the game ended, but liked the effort in coming back.
But we weren't good enough. I do like the fight of this group, the way that we handled ourselves in the second half. And we had our chances to be able to close that game out. And here we are again in a disappointing situation. But this is a humbling league, and we got humbled tonight. I wish I had an answer. I thought they had a good week of preparation. We just didn't have that bounce in our step, missing some guys, but it's no excuse. And so, we got to be able to figure it out. In a lot of instances, it comes back to, our collective. Are we putting our guys in the right sort of spots? And then ultimately, are we executing? And we'll look at it. But it wasn't good enough as a whole, and it starts with me.
Great to do it in front of our fans. I thought they provided a great, home atmosphere tonight. Fun to win on Monday Night Football. It's just great to see our team as a whole team win. I thought our defense really made a major difference tonight. Special teams came up with some big plays. So really felt like we all kind of leaned on one another. And feels good to be walking out of here with a victory against a good football team.
Meanwhile, some disturbing news from a member on the New England Patriots. A television station in the New England area reporting that wide receiver Stephon Diggs has been charged with felony strangulation for suffocation and a misdemeanor count of assault and battery related to an incident that occurred earlier this month. He's scheduled to be arraigned on January the 23rd, just 2 days before the AFC Championship game. Diggs, according to a reporter in New England, denies the charges, and the Patriots, at least for the time being, saying they're standing by Diggs and letting this legal situation play out. So we're just getting this information about 20 minutes ago, giving you what we know. All right, now we don't know who's going to start for the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday night. It would appear at quarterback that at the very least, if they plan on winning the game, Lamar Jackson's got to start this one. His status against the Steelers to be determined. Baltimore, 3.5-point favorites on the road at Pittsburgh for the AFC North title. John Harbaugh yesterday not really giving any true indication as to whether or not Lamar will play in the do-or-die game.
Do you expect Lamar to be able to play this week, or is that still to be determined?
Yeah, well, it's to be determined. Still he's coming off a very serious injury, and he's working at it. Saw him in here today working at it. So I think we'll know a lot more on Wednesday.
Might you go lighter with the hitting this week, knowing the physicality that the Steelers-Ravens history brings?
Well, you must have been watching the shows. Coach Cowher talked about that. I happened to see that because I was watching TV this weekend, unlike other weekends. We don't really. At this point in time of the season, we haven't been in pads for about 3 weeks now. The rules don't really allow you to be in pads too much, but also we haven't wanted to be. We haven't needed to be. We are focused. We will focus on technique for sure, blocking technique and all the different things that we do. But it's not this point in time of the season when there's not a lot of hitting that you do in practice anyway. So it's kind of where we're at.
The Chargers plan on resting some of their starters on Sunday. The game really doesn't mean all that much. So Justin Herbert not going to play. Not a surprise for the Chargers. They head into the playoffs. Trey Lance, by the way, remember him? He will start. Meanwhile, Andy Reid seemingly making it official yesterday at his media session. Reid was questioned as to whether or not he plans on returning for next season. He gave an answer that sure would indicate that he is.
I know you've gone through this every year for the last few years, but is there any scenario that you can imagine where you're not back as the coach next year?
I think I'm coming back, right? If they'll have me back, I'll come back. You never know in this business, Matt. So that's a tough one, but I plan on it. Yeah.
Chip Kelly's career will continue. This time he's headed, folks, to Northwestern. According to several reports, he'll be the offensive coordinator there. He was fired by the Raiders this past season. Georgia Southern beats App State 29-10 in the Birmingham Bowl, so they covered that 9.5-point spread. Tennessee, 3.5-point favorites in the Music City Bowl. That set kick is 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And then tonight we have the Alamo Bowl. Pretty good game, by the way. USC, 5.5-point favorites over TCU. All right, the Oklahoma City Thunder didn't play the San Antonio Spurs yesterday, so of course they won. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 39 points. OKC beats Atlanta 140-129 amidst a lot of rumors surrounding potentially Trae Young of the Hawks being traded over the next couple of weeks. We will see. SGA had 39 points, as I mentioned. OKC 28-5 on the season. Atlanta's lost 7 straight games. But Shea, after the game, wearing shades, said that the defense certainly could have been better.
I think we could have did a better job of tonight of like still guarding them. They made a lot of shots, but they also got a lot of easy stuff, especially in the first half. That's not the recipe to win big. So we definitely got to get better in that area. But nonetheless, we did whatever it took to win tonight, and the NBA is going to look different every night. Teams are really good no matter who you play, and getting a W is first and foremost.
Whatever you want to call it. I don't know where you put this game, but with the guys that we had out for this group to compete on the level that they did, against the team that is the reigning world champions, to be down 4 minutes to play, particularly after the third quarter. We talked about it. They're really good in the third quarter, and they were. But, we were resilient during that stretch. So this is one of those moments, regardless of the score, that you feel really proud to coach a team.
Despite 26 points from Victor Wembanyama, the Cavs go to San Antonio and beat the Spurs 113-101. San Antonio was favored in the game. The Knicks win again. They beat the Pelicans 130-125. Jalen Brunson ended up having 28 points in that game. We'll take a quick timeout here on NewsWire. We return next. It's time to talk some college football with Bill Bender after the break.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
If you have New Year's Eve plans and you're an alumnus of the University of Miami or Ohio State University, you may want to change those for tomorrow night because the college football playoff is giving you no breaks. Bill Bender is joining us, so naturally Bill will be locked in to watch this game in the Cotton Bowl. It will be Miami and Ohio State, a rematch of a championship game many years ago that you and I have talked about, Bill, and certainly a lot of the folks have changed from this. I mean, certainly different coaches, Jim Tressel and Larry Coker. I mean, I could go down the list. So I don't know what kind of revenge really is a factor here. And to be quite honest with you, when I see a bowl game at night in a marquee spot and the total is 41.5, sort of tells me here that offensive points are going to be at a premium.
Yeah, and for both sides, for the key and from the Miami side, yeah, they feel like they can get after Julian Sand a little bit, and they're going to have to land on that pressure with Ruben Bain and Akeem Messidor, because if you look at Julian Sand against Texas, Michigan, Indiana, in those 3 games, 9 of 13, 268 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions on passes of 20 yards or more. So if Miami allows time for him to get the ball downfield to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, it will be a long night for the Hurricanes. I know there's a little bit of chatter that Miami feels like they can win this game. I kind of feel the other way around. If Ohio State gets the running game going, I see them winning by 10 to 17 points.
Yeah, Miami's defense has been very good, especially lately, Ruben Bain and company, but just 1-12 in their last 13 bowl games. And the key, obviously, will be to make sure that they can keep this game close with Ohio State like they did with Texas A&M going into the 4th. By the way, Carson Beck has thrown 26 touchdowns against 10 interceptions this season. He's been really good in the big games, not so much in a couple of games where the Hurricanes lost, but you probably could say that about every quarterback in college football this season. Meanwhile, we've got Oregon taking on Texas Tech. The Ducks are 2.5-point favorites in a game that everyone seems to have a side. I got 50-50 on this one, Bill. Tough one to call. 51.5 in this great matchup. Oregon, of course, used to the spotlight, and so is Dan Lanning. But here's the question. Is Texas Tech being undervalued here, getting points in this game? Some think Texas Tech was better than Oregon during the season.
Yeah, this is the hardest one to call because of a few things. This Texas Tech defense statistically ranks right up there with Ohio State and Indiana, but how much of that is playing in the Big 12? And we can argue that all we want. I could see this game playing out a lot like Texas, Arizona State last year, where Texas Tech comes out and we're like, how are they in this game? And, they are allowing just 2.3 yards per carry. They need to force turnovers. That's the one reason why I kind of like Oregon in this game. They only had 11 turnovers all season. Dante Moore's played with a ton of poise. They're pretty good on both sides of the ball. They had a couple breakdowns defensively against James Madison that they can't have against Texas Tech. Most intriguing matchup, hardest one to call. I'm going to take the Ducks, and I like them to cover the 2 to the 2.5, and they win by a touchdown maybe, but it's not going to be easy.
And by the way, could be a cold weather Orange Bowl, shockingly enough. 12 o'clock Eastern on Thursday is supposed to be in the 50s, which is cold for any Orange Bowl game ever, really, when you think about it. Dante Moore, 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 72% completion percentage. Certainly he'll be looked at as a prime player in the upcoming draft, and also a potential maybe MVP if he could get that far to the championship game. All right, so the one that everyone will want to watch certainly will be Indiana and Alabama. The Hoosiers are 7.5-point favorites. They got the Heisman Trophy Award winner. Of course they do. Total of 48.5. Crimson Tide in their first playoff game, Bill, came out slow and then surged. The total is 48.5. What is this line telling us here, Bill? Like this line cannot hit 7. It's seemingly that Indiana is just a better team than Alabama this season. Do you believe that to be the case? And will they cover the spread?
If you aren't brainwashed by years of Nick Saban and Alabama and all of that, the dominance in the college football playoff and BCS eras, I honestly don't think I've ever picked against Alabama in a playoff game at my time in Sporting News. And I'm not joking. Like every time they're in the playoff, I would pick them, and including the Oklahoma game. So, but all the indicators say that Indiana should win the football game. They are the better team. Alabama's 4-3 when they rush for less than 100 yards in a game. And if they can't get the running game going, and Indiana can, that'll be all she wrote. I think weather might play a factor here too. It's supposed to rain a little bit. So all that said, Kalen DeBoer is 6-2 against the spread against top 10 teams. I think they hang around and keep it close. Indiana wins around like 24-25 field goal, or 24-21 field goal type game. I like the Hoosiers to win, but I'm taking Alabama to cover.
The college football playoff crescendo really hits, I think, when Ole Miss plays Georgia Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, because I got to tell you, Mississippi to me is playing some of the best football right now in college football. They are 6.5-point dogs against the Bulldogs. 55.5 is the total in this one. Do you have an opinion, Bill, a strong one on this one? This is the only game where I look at the dog and say, why can't they win this game outright?
Wow. So we disagree then, right? Because I think Georgia is in their defense, the break, the experience of the Sugar Bowl last year. Trinidad Chambliss in that first meeting had trouble throwing the ball down the field. So anything over 10 yards, they were going side to side a lot. And if that happens again, I kind of like Georgia. To your point, though, and one reason to latch on to Ole Miss in this game was that was a game in the third quarter. They have played really good football. It doesn't look like Lane Kiffin being out affected them at all against Tulane. So I could see them hanging around. But again, I think I'm conditioned to take Kirby Smart and Georgia in this spot. I like Georgia to win around 31-21. So that would set up a semifinal round. If mine come true, you would have 3 Big Ten teams, 1 SEC team. If Alabama can beat Indiana somehow, imagine that Final Four if we had Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, Bill. So do you want to change any predictions for the national championship here? I mean, you've been with Ohio State from the very, very beginning. Bill's very candid. He said he didn't have a really good week against the spread with the college football bowl games. How can anybody? You don't know who's playing in any of these games, Bill. Don't take it personally. Are you pivoting off Ohio State? This is your last chance to do it before the games begin, because by next week it won't be fair.
Yeah, I'll keep the winner of Ohio State, Georgia. I actually picked Georgia in our bracket at Sporting News. So I kind of switched there, and I'll stay true to it. I'm going to take the Bulldogs to win the whole thing for now. But the winner of that Ohio State-Georgia game, that's who's going to win the national title.
I agree. All right, Bill. Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2026.
Hey, Happy New Year. Thanks again.
All right, Bill Bender joining us courtesy of Sporting News. We'll take a quick time out here on NewsWire. When we return next, we dive more into the National Football League. The hot seat is getting hotter for some. We'll go away.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. The hot seat of the NFL is about to get scorching because after this coming weekend, as they say, Black Monday is upon us. Several of the coaches that you're going to hear from right now in the SportsGrid sound-off may be without a job. I'm not hiring or firing. I'm just saying. So let's get started now as we hear from Jonathan Gannon, Kevin Stefanski, and Aaron Glenn in the SportsGrid sound-off. All right, let's get started with the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. How about you? They haven't won a game in months. But yet, it seems like they're just banging their head against the wall, going out and doing the same things every week. Let me read you the script. The game starts, they're down 21-0. They come back, score some points. Fantasy people are happy, but the Cardinals don't win any games. Jonathan Gannon was asked at his press conference yesterday if he thinks that he'll be back. A lot of different questions were asked of him, and he answered very few.
Do you expect to be sitting in that chair a week from today?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
I have confidence in myself, Bob. To your point, Bob, no one's happy. I'm not happy. The players aren't happy. Through adversity, you got to change, so I got to change and we got to change some things. But we'll get to that.
We've been talking about your job status for like a month now, whatnot. Have you been told that you're safe for next year?
I'm not going to get into all that, Josh, but I feel good.
Coach, you said that the guys have a lot to play for this week. Can you expand on that a little bit?
The Arizona Cardinal name on your chest and name on your back, you know what I mean? And they have fun playing football, you know what I mean? And I told them today, it's 2 weeks from now, you're going to be watching these games and all these emotions are going to come up and they're not going to be good emotions. I know that. That's how I feel. I know that's how they'll feel. So maximize the opportunity to go play a game.
They're good answers, but don't think it's going to help his cause come Monday. Meanwhile, I'm not really sure what's going to happen in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski's had a couple of bad years. The team does seem to win some big games along the line. He was also asked about his job security and his future as head coach of the Browns as soon as next season.
And Kevin, after 2 frustrating seasons here, do you wish to continue beyond this season as Browns coach?
Yeah, as you can imagine, my sole focus is on this game versus Cincinnati, but I also would tell you I'm privileged to have this job. Yeah, Jeff, it's just we keep the focus on what's in front of us. I appreciate this group. Like I've told you guys, they've done everything I've asked them to do going back to the spring. I know what the results are, but I also know how these guys have worked. And that's just what we're about. We're about putting in the work and then going and competing like crazy on Sundays.
Is that a skill as a coach that you learn as you progress through your tenure?
Yeah, I'd put it back, Jeff, on just having the right players in the locker room that understand how important this game is.
Fair enough. All right, so we're not going to get any answers. Let's see if we get one now from the New York Jets. The Jets have had an absolutely miserable season. There are some that are thinking that Aaron Glenn could be a one-and-done head coach in the NFL, but Glenn has said he's been through this before with other teams and thinks that there's a way out of this adversity.
I think there's a certain way that you win games in this league, and I think most coaches feel like that. And again, I've been through this before a number of times, and man, when you have a way that you feel like you can win games, and that way has been proven. I mean, I don't go away from that at all. I mean, obviously you want to tweak some things here and there depending on your team and how you want your team to be built. But when it comes to how you win, that's nowhere at all that I'm wavering from that. And I don't think our players are wavering from that either. And that's a good thing. Listen, we have one more game left. We have 1 week left to continue to improve, and that's what we're focused on. And this is a playoff team, so that gives us another chance to go out there and play against a playoff team, and I'm looking forward to that.
All right, meanwhile, coming up next, we will dive into the latest on the NFL ratings on Christmas Day as Simon Applebaum has made his way to our studios in New York, and he will join us. But the top story of the day is percolating from the National Football League, some very serious charges, according to a television station in the New England area, that say that Stephon Diggs is being accused of strangulation back early in December. There's an arraignment set for January, which could affect his playoff participation. The Patriots, as of now, are saying that they are standing by Diggs, who says he is innocent. Simon Applebaum's up next. We'll dive into the ratings in the NFL. Did they beat the NBA on Christmas Day? I'm sure they did, but the games, were they worth watching? Talk to Simon about that next.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. Doesn't like what they're doing here. It's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there.
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid as we put a bow on the media in 2025. Streaming, sports betting, so many different topics to get into as we close it out with Simon Applebaum of the podcast. Tomorrow will be televised, his final appearance with us this year. Simon, thanks so much for appearing all year long once again with us here on NewsWire and making your way to the studio. Really appreciate that. All right, before we move forward and get some predictions, let's look back a little bit. The Christmas Day slate, Simon, in the National Football League wasn't all that great. There were some moments here and there, certainly that were watchable. I was on the air during that time in SportsGrid. Actually, the first game of the day between Washington and Dallas was actually a pretty good game. So what did you make of the whole scenario of Netflix airing a couple of these and then certainly Amazon Prime? And, the NBA games were actually more competitive than the NFL games. So I wonder if that helped them at all during this time.
Well, believe it or not, as of this very moment, Craig, and yes, it's been great to be with you all year long, and thanks to you and the whole SportsGrid crew for that, both here in New York and down where you are. We still do not know what the viewership is, both for the Christmas Day games in the NFL and the Christmas Day games in the NBA. By the way, something else that happened, Disney, at the very last minute, decided we're going to do an animated alt-cast with the Cleveland Cavalier New York Knicks game, the first game on the NBA Christmas Day schedule, and they didn't tell a lot of people about it until way late before. And by the way, it looked very, very good on the air, whether you saw it on Disney Channel or ESPN, the main content service, and so forth. As far as the games were concerned, I thought the first game, the Dallas-Washington game, was by far the most competitive. Went back and forth. It was nip and tuck all the way through. It was also very well covered by Netflix. The second game was a bust in a lot of ways. I'm sure that Detroit fans are really unhappy the fact that they lost the game to Minnesota the way they did and may have put their postseason in peril. And then the third game, the Kansas City people were hoping, let's win one for Patrick Mahomes. That didn't happen, although it was a close game with Denver 13-10. And you will say this about Netflix. They gave it a game effort. They could have thrown the towel, given the fact that they didn't get the games they thought they were going to get at the start of the season. They can't do anything about it because no flex scheduling with their games in the NFL. However, they did make a good effort with the play-by-play, with the graphics, with the camera coverage. And you got to give Snoop Dogg credit. He got the K-pop Demon Hunter singers to come on his halftime show in the second game, and that was pretty good. So it looks like it may be everybody will win out, no matter what the viewership ends up being.
Simon, let's get to some stories here to watch in 2026 as we move forward. And you've talked about this since you've been on the show with me, probably for years, and we're starting to see this. And I think for me, Simon, the first indication, as you talked about, the devices on television streaming to be able to bet live on those as you go with your hands. I'm showing my hands, so to speak. Reminds me a little bit of what Amazon Prime has been trying, where basically during the games you get a QR code that's right there on your screen and says, "Hey, you could buy something right now with this." I feel like that's the next step with betting on sports and streaming. That's probably coming to fruition this year.
And what's making that next step happen, Craig, is that it looks like we are now in a brand new era of television. It's not just about watching TV anymore. It's about using TV. And the reason why is artificial intelligence, call them agents, call them features, call them apps, whether it is Alexa Plus, that's now being distributed to Amazon Fire TV and Samsung and other smart TV sets. You got Gemini from Google. You have Microsoft's Copilot. You have Perplexity AI. And all of those have the ability, at least in principle, to allow you to place a sports bet with your voice or with your remote control and do it in a safe, in a secure manner. And that's just one of the things that people will be able to do. It's ordering all sorts of products and services. It's doing video chat. It's communicating with your teacher or with your doctor, filling a prescription, making reservations for sports events, for hotels, for trips, et cetera, et cetera. So it looks like with all of these agents now being deployed in all sorts of smart TV sets, and also with sets like Telly, the dual screen set that is trying to be the iPhone of television, and a new set that's coming out next year called Displaced in the second half of the year. I had the interview on Tomorrow Be Televised last week with the head of that venture. They're going to showcase it next week at CES, the big consumer electronics exhibition in Vegas. And it looks like they're going to do sports betting once they get those sets up and running in the second half of the year. So it looks like somebody, whether it is a smart TV set maker, whether it's ESPN, whether it's FanDuel or DraftKings or BetMGM, somebody, and maybe more than one somebody, is finally going to pull the trigger to allow you to make a sports bet on your television set or through your TV.
Yep, see that happening too. All right, so usually when we get to the summer months, Simon, covering sports, it could be a slow time. Let's just keep it real. Usually baseball's the only thing going on during the NBA finals and such, but that's not going to be the case in 2026. This is going to be, without a doubt, Simon, the biggest World Cup and the most coverage what we've ever seen, because it's going to be here in the United States. So buckle up, get ready, Simon. I cannot even imagine what the plans will be for this summer.
It is going to be huge. For the first time in more than 3 decades, the World Cup is coming to North America. The final game will be not far from where I am at Giant Stadium in the Meadowlands. You have the U.S. team in it. You have more teams than ever before. You got coverage in English on Fox, in Spanish by Telemundo and Universo. And there's a lot of implications here. And I think a lot of it's going to depend on how well the U.S. men's team does. The hope is, if they can't make it all the way to the final game, that at least they can get into the semifinals. They have a good group, by the way, that they can work on. And why is this important? Because of Major League Soccer and the United Soccer League. I think the future of both those leagues is going to be tied into how well the U.S. team does. Because the more that the U.S. team gets deeper into the Cup, the more people will be tuning in. And let's not forget that Netflix has a little stake in this too, because in the following year, 2027, they will be carrying the Women's World Cup, and they'll do it again in 2031. So if the Women's World Cup coverage that they do works out great, and they like what they see with the Men's World Cup, FIFA, the organizing body behind the World Cups, they might even decide, hey, you know what? For the first time ever, we will let a mega content service do everything. Men's World Cup and Women's World Cup. So there's a lot on the line for Netflix. There's a lot on the line for the growth of soccer here in the United States, with both men and women's soccer, and certainly for the pro leagues, Major League Soccer and the United Soccer League. It is going to be one whale of a tournament.
Simon, we're getting used to now using a lot of the streaming apps to watch, especially what we would call the prime National Football League games. And that's not to say that Peacock isn't one of those. But let's be honest, like among Netflix, Amazon Prime, and some, it's not obscure, but it probably is the most obscure of all of them. So there was a lot of folks that were not happy that the NFL was just airing exclusively on Peacock this weekend. They're going to have to get used to it, because this is the big rollout for Olympics TV in the Winter Olympics. If you want to watch all the events, you got to download this app and watch it. And not that I'm advertising for it, but it's just the way of the future. Can't be complaining about apps anymore.
It is, and the next Olympics, of course, is in Italy, the Winter Olympic Games in February. By the way, next week, it looks like next Wednesday, NBC Universal is going to have a special event here in New York, a Media Day event to promote it at 30 Rock, probably. This is a big move for Peacock, because when they have Olympics coverage, they usually get a bump up in their viewers and a bump up ultimately in their subscribers. For Peacock, this is going to show that this is the first time you're going to be able to see in one place Peacock on your smart TV set or smart device, any way you want to watch the Olympics. Live, taped, highlights, stats, interactive, multi-view, and maybe even doing shopping for merchandise, or maybe talking directly to the athletes in a sort of a special video chat. This is the way that the Olympics are going to go from now on, and Peacock should lead the way next February.
Finally, Simon, Brooks Koepka dropped out of Live Golf and put all that money to the side, which was sort of shocking for some. It would appear to me that this is the first step of many that could indicate the final year of Live Golf. You also, I know, want to discuss the UFL. I don't know what they're even doing continuing here, but naturally, I think Live Golf is really, Simon, something you and I have talked about for about a year. I think this is it.
I agree. It's do or die. And a lot's going to depend on how well Fox promotes and presents the Live Golf. And by the way, it looks like this coming year it's going to be a 4-round situation. So it's going to be Thursday through Sunday, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I agree. It's do or die for Live Golf this year. If they don't make it work in terms of raising viewers, they're done.
All right, Simon, I'll be looking for you as the ball drops in Times Square. Make sure you get there early, okay? 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sit out there for 6 hours. Have a happy New Year.
You too, Craig. All the greatest. Take care.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, you look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there.
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with Dustin Gawker's got a great Substack that breaks down everything happening in the prediction market space, the story of the year in sports betting in 2025 as we head toward 2026. Don't see that changing anytime soon. Dustin, Happy New Year. Thanks for coming on the show. And we'll start off with the hot story, of course, which just continues to be Kalshi, the company that burst onto the scene a little bit over a year ago and now are offering prediction markets in places that sports betting obviously is not legal. but people are jumping on board and jumping on their app at unprecedented rates.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. If we had been having this conversation a year ago, almost nobody would have heard of Kalshi. There was some betting on the election, the 2024 presidential election, and other elections, but very few people had heard of this. Now, I'm not sure it's a household name, but a lot of people know what Kalshi is now, and the numbers kind of back that up. We just last week with some busy sports days with all the college football and pro football island games, they were up to 1.6 billion for a trailing 7-day period. I've actually tracked them as high as 1.8 billion over 7 days just more recently. So lots of people betting, trading, whatever you want to call it, on Kalshi. I think it's important to note this is not a one-to-one with sports betting handle that we talk about a lot on this show. I know something like, I don't know, 50%, 60% of that could be understood as what we look at as handle in the sports betting industry. That's retail activity. Every time you're talking about volume, that also captures what's on the other side of that, the market makers who are taking the other sides of your bet. So it's not the same as this is sports betting handle. So, while this is still very big, billions of dollars being traded every week, this is still pretty small compared to the state regulated sports betting industry. I'd say this is, if you take a few of the top states in state regulated sports betting, that's about how much trading you're having at Kalshi right now. Obviously other operators coming in and more of this, it's going to start looking bigger and bigger, especially over the course of 2026 as we see more prediction markets ramp up.
Yeah, I kind of have like a side question to this, Dustin, and look, maybe I'll be off here and I'll make my predictions on the prediction market, so to speak. Is that it felt like when we went back to sports betting, that it felt like ESPN's failure was not getting in front of sports betting, waiting and striking a deal eventually while DraftKings and FanDuel had it going. Now, I do think that DraftKings and FanDuel, you'll see where I'm going with this, Dustin. I do think that they are now on board with offering these prediction markets, but I'm just not sure that they're going to have the same success that a company like Kalshi is, because Kalshi essentially is branded as a prediction market company. That's not to say that DraftKings and FanDuel can't succeed on some level, but is this apples and oranges, what I'm trying to compare here? Because I wonder if 6 months ago they had started this versus now everybody probably has a Kalshi account if they want to, put money on predictions.
Yeah, it's going to be a story of 2026 is who wins this space. And I think we'll get a pretty good answer to that over the course of the next year. Yeah, I mean, DraftKings and FanDuel actually moved really fast, right? Again, if sports event contracts were not a thing a year ago, they now have launched their product a year later. So that's moving at light speed, at least in the gambling industry, I'd say. Can they win? Yeah, who knows? DraftKings and FanDuel are very good at offering sports betting, customer acquisition, customer retention. And from the Kalshi side of things, this volume is expressed as Kalshi volume because their market's being traded, but we understand that to be more than half coming from Robinhood, a financial trading app that lists Kalshi markets. So Kalshi still has a lot it can do on customer acquisition, but a lot of this volume is being expressed as all of its partners. As we've talked about before, it's partnered with Coinbase. They have partnered with Prize Picks. You get all that volume number I'm talking about is all of those things mashed up together. So, it is a fascinating question though, and tracking. That's why I track these numbers and all of this so closely, because it helps us understand like who's winning and where are people trading and betting and where all this is headed. Because anybody tells you so that they know where it's headed, they're probably lying to you. But it'll be a fascinating thing to track moving forward.
Yeah, and what about this report on the pricing at Kalshi as far as the odds and things of that nature? Are they worse than the sports books?
So far, at least at Kalshi, they are. It's interesting to note that Kalshi, they show you odds and they show you a price that you can buy a sports trade on, and that number also will, once you actually make the transaction, it will include feeds. So some analysts who track the prediction markets and the gambling industry space are really granularly tracking this. So Citizens put out this report, and they're putting out reports pretty regularly now saying that once you include fees on Kalshi markets, it's actually worse prices than you're getting at DraftKings and FanDuel, which sounds kind of bonkers because, Kalshi, again, not the house, this is an exchange, but by the time Kalshi takes his cut, by the time the market makers who are, serving as kind of like the sports book put up their odds, you're sometimes getting just worse odds. And this is the promise, though, of sports betting exchanges, is that you're going to get better prices eventually as there's more competition, as there's more people doing this. Polymarket has very low fees, for instance, but a lot of the early days of prediction markets is high fees, and this is actually not better than sportsbooks. Again, availability and access is what prediction markets and Kalshi offer, kind of in the grand scheme of things, and maybe not better pricing yet, although that's going to come eventually.
All right, so here's the final question, Dustin, and you can read more about all these topics over at Dustin's Substack, where he dives into all of the hot topics in the prediction markets. Did the Chicago Blackhawks break the dam with partnerships in prediction markets, or is this a one-off? That's the question that everybody has moving forward in 2026.
I think we'll see more NHL teams. I think the other teams, the other leagues are a big question mark here. We've had the NFL really come out against it, against prediction markets. Major League Baseball and NBA haven't said that much about it, but it's hard to believe that they're going to jump in with both feet on this. Kalshi and Polymarket did deals with the NHL. That opened up the avenue to have team deals. First one, Chicago Blackhawks, obviously doing this deal in a place where Illinois already has sports betting. It's a curious one, but we're going to see more. We're going to see more in lower level. Kalshi and Polymarket have done deals with other things. Polymarket with UFC. Kalshi has done this with a bunch of lower level leagues that are much lower than the NHL and some of the major leagues in North America. But we're going to see more of this over time. Whether we see NFL, NBA, MLB do this, that remains an open question, and I'd probably bet against that.
All right, well, we'll find out in 2026. Happy New Year, Dustin. Thanks again for coming on the show.
You as well. Thanks as always for having me.
All right, make sure you subscribe to Dustin's Substack for the latest on this topic and a whole lot more. Coming up next, Hillary McAfee sits down with the Senior Vice President of Epic Global Solutions, Teresa Fiore. That's next on NewsWire. Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is if they're playing a Joe Bowman show.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting
Who is that?
here, but I have no idea.
Do you even know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Don? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
As we mentioned, we got tons of college bowl games to come this week, including 3 today. So make sure you keep it right here because we have you covered on in-game live and game time decisions. Music City Bowl between Tennessee and Illinois, one of the 3 games that will be played today. And then, of course, the quarterfinal of the college football championship between Ohio State and Miami is tomorrow night. All right, now let's head back out to the G2E conference from back in October, where Hillary McAfee sat down and interviewed the senior vice president of Epic Global Solutions, Teresa Fiore. Teresa, very heavily involved in sports gaming to the degree of protection and making sure everyone is correctly protected, both the consumer and the merchant, as far as sports betting is concerned. How are they getting that done? Let's check in with Hillary as she sits down with Teresa.
All right, we're back with SportsGrid on the floor of G2E, and I'm here with Teresa Fiore, SVP of North America for Epic Global Solutions.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. End of day one, so everyone's a little tired. The energy's going down a little bit, but yeah, I appreciate you being here. How has your show been so far?
It's been fabulous. It's always so exciting to be at G2E, the kind of epicenter of all of it. So we've had some really fabulous conversations with regulators, operators, and suppliers alike. We're tired, but we're feeling energized at the same time.
Exactly. That's the way to be. So tell me a little bit about your company and what you guys do.
Sure. So we are a harm minimization consultancy, and so harm in this context is gambling related. So we work with the industry, any industry stakeholders, sportsbooks, online casino, land-based casino to mitigate gambling related harms, and that's inclusive of gambling addiction or harms experienced by those who love someone who have a gambling addiction.
Wow, okay, that's incredible. How long have you guys been around?
We've been around since 2013. In fact, the business plan for our organization was written by our CEO and founder, Paul Buck, while he was serving a prison sentence for committing gambling-related crimes. So it is very much at the center of all that we do in the space.
So what are some of your key initiatives?
We have a whole host, but some in North America that I'm especially proud of is our work with the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, in sending out our lived experience consultants to meet and share their story with student athletes and athletic department staff. So that's within the sports space. Within the industry, we do a lot of great work with the Responsible Online Gaming Association, also known as ROGA, in addition to work with the individual members, and we oversee their educational pillars. So we developed an online platform called Know Your Play. It's accessible at knowyourplay.org, and it is a free website for any college student or university staff member to access and receive free, super important prevention educational information as it relates to gambling. We also package it with financial health and literacy as well.
Interesting. What would you want like the suppliers and operators to know?
That we're here and that we have incredible solutions and that we can shape them to whatever the need and wherever the opportunity is within their organization. Everyone has a role to play within responsible gaming, and so that's exactly what we want to maintain, that momentum, so that we can scale and change the landscape as it relates to mitigation of gambling harms.
Do you have a lot of success stories based on your program, like of people who have used your program?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's that been like?
We have some really incredible metrics around our two largest initiatives, the one I had mentioned, NCAA. We have visited over 300 colleges and universities spanning divisions 1, 2, and 3, educated over 80,000 student athletes and athletic department staff. So really having an incredible impact in that space, and then seeing incredible site traffic to knowyourplay.org, which is once again educating the broader student population and campus communities across the country.
So what's next for you guys looking ahead throughout the next year or two? What are your goals?
You know, it's working with an increasing number of stakeholders and operators, in particular within the space. Again, they play such a critical role as it relates to prevention, and to date they've been incredible partners, and we're seeing such a shift across the industry and really seeing incredible demonstrations of their commitment. So it's growing and it's normalizing responsible gaming as the industry continues to grow within the United States.
Yeah. So what are your key initiatives while you're here during this week at G2E?
Lots of conversations with as many people as we possibly can. We actually just went to a fabulous educational session. So this is our big educational day, but we're sandwiching that with a whole host of meetings and catch-ups with various operators and partners in the space.
Fascinating. Well, we really appreciate your time today and sharing more about the incredible work your company is doing. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful rest of your week at G2E for sure.
Happy G2E. Thank you for having me.
Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carden Show, only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way. And it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York. And now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Arvil Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a Joe Bowman show.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting
Who is that?
here, but I have no idea.
You need to know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Don? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Always great to catch up with Jack McMullen from Just Baseball. Their show coming your way in less than 30 minutes from now, and in less than 90 days from now, Jack's going to be calling baseball games on the radio for the Miami Marlins Broadcast Network. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the baseball season. Jack, happy holidays, happy New Year. What's going on?
Happy holidays. Yeah, this is the weird point of the holiday calendar where it's like, I have no idea what day it is. So I got the text from Frank, the producer, and was like, hey, can you come on tomorrow? Apparently tomorrow's Tuesday. So I'm here for you, Craig, and really excited to chat some ball right now. But yeah, I think we're less than 2 months away from some spring training baseball as well. So it'll be good, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it. So naturally, this is a slower time for baseball. On this show, we keep it real. I'm not going to sit here and say for the next 15 minutes that Jack and I are going to be talking about, Juan Soto or Garrett Cole signing $300 million contracts. But every player does have a piece in baseball and their history. So let's go through some of the signings and moves that have happened since we last caught up with Jack. And Jack, let's start off with the A's, who made an announcement. I don't ever remember seeing a Christmas Eve and Christmas Day announcement in baseball, but we got a couple of them here. We got Tyler Soderstrom signing a long-term extension, 25 home runs last season, 93 runs driven in. The A's certainly doing their best to keep a young core going so that when they inevitably move to Las Vegas, a few of the kids that you see right now are still around. What did you make of this deal? Does it seem fair for you for both sides?
Yeah, 100%. This was a guy in Soderstrom that was a catcher, first base type. And, he was a former top 100 prospect that, really struggled to find his footing. And then all of a sudden he moves to left field and he becomes one of the better defensive and overall left fielders in the game. He was a Gold Glove finalist when this is a catcher moving to left field for the first time in his life. So for them to identify this kind of talent and retain him and push forward with him locked up, and Brent Rooker, their DH, locked up, and Lawrence Butler, another outfielder, locked up. They also have a great young first baseman in Nick Kurtz, and they have a great young shortstop in Jacob Wilson as well. Kurtz won the American League Rookie of the Year, and Wilson was the AL Rookie of the Year runner-up. They have a core that is formulating for their move to Vegas, and we talk a lot about the A's when they were in Oakland as being one of those cyclical type of teams where you have Matt Olson and Matt Chapman and you have some young pitching. Sonny Gray was really good for them at a young age. They always have that young core, and then they sell it off when they get closer to free agency, and then they build up another young core. people love talking about Tampa and Milwaukee in that sense, where they're always just recycling. They're finding good talent. The A's do it with a little bit more of a rebuild in certain points, but the Athletics over the last decade and a half have proven to be one of the best teams at developing and identifying young talent and letting it blossom. And it seems like this is the first time in their history as a franchise of extending that young talent and saying, hey, you're going to be here for the next 7 or 8 years, and we're excited to have you on our move to Vegas.
Yeah, good move for the industry too, to see that the A's want to keep kids around. Maybe players eventually will want to go there and sign there. All right, so the Miami Marlins with a mixed bag of news this past week, Jack, where I thought it was fantastic news that they shored up the bullpen 8th, 9th inning by signing Pete Fairbanks to a 1-year deal, reportedly worth about $13 million. And Fairbanks, of course, a lot of familiarity with the president of baseball operations, Peter Bendix, who was there in Tampa when Fairbanks was there. So he certainly will fill in a role. I didn't think it would be the sole role in the 9th inning. I thought that Ronnie Enriquez, who was so good last year, would have part of that equation as well. So dare I say the Marlins are going to be counting a little bit more heavily on Fairbanks maybe than we thought, which is why this signing seemingly was necessary.
Yeah, it was interesting. We saw the reported interest in Pete Fairbanks with Miami, and there was mutual interest between Fairbanks and Miami before we knew about this Ronnie Enriquez injury news. And, it seems like it was something that popped up, more recently. Nobody had any idea that Ronnie Enriquez was, hurt in September or October or anything like that. So, no, I thought that it was going to be, if they signed Fairbanks, a compliment to Ronnie Enriquez, and you feel like you have two closer caliber type arms in that bullpen, along with other really solid relievers and a guy like Bender and Fauché and some of those other guys in the bullpen. But, Ronnie Enriquez, who was probably the breakout bullpen star in Major League Baseball last year, goes down with a UCL issue. He's going to miss the entirety of 26. So, yeah, they really needed Fairbanks. And, this guy getting a 1-year deal is interesting to me because you see all of these other relievers, and we've talked about it in recent weeks. Some of these other relievers are getting paid. Tyler Rogers got 3 years and $37 million. Why is Fairbanks getting a third of that when Fairbanks has been handling a 9th inning and has been just as good, if not better, in terms of strikeout stuff? The strikeout stuff has diminished over the last couple of years, but the Marlins have proven really well at, developing a new pitch or refining a current pitch. And that can work when you're 30, that can work when you're 33, that can work when you're 23 years old. So excited to see what the Marlins staff can do with Pete Fairbanks in 26.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting and a good signing, of course, for them. Pirates fans are happy that they have spent some money and have gone out and signed Ryan O'Hearn to a 3-year contract. O'Hearn, several years ago, Jack, a top prospect hitting-wise in baseball, middled around for a bit, finally found his footing last season. And I think that the Pirates basically are sending the signal, at least to the fans, that, hey, look, we got to back up Paul Skeens and some of this pitching with some hitting eventually. This is one of those deals, Jack, where I don't know how it's going to go. Sometimes these 2-year deals and 1-year deals for the hitters are fantastic. And then sometimes, you just kind of wonder why nobody else was in on a guy like O'Hearn. Not to say that other teams weren't, but it's not a mega contract. So I'm hopeful for Pittsburgh that this works out.
You're buying a sustained breakout on the other side of 30 years old. And I understand if that makes minimal sense, but Ryan O'Hearn, to your point, was a guy that had some serious prospect intrigue. It didn't work in Kansas City. And then he goes to Baltimore and he has a good 2024. And then he has a really good start to the 25 season. He was an all-star last year and was good for San Diego after he was acquired by the Padres at the deadline. So they are buying the last 2-3 years of what O'Hearn has done later in his baseball career as he is on the other side of 30 years old. But it's really just putting an offense behind Paul Skeens and other young arms, Jared Jones and Bubba Chandler, and they feel really good about what they have waiting in the wings, and a Braxton Ashcraft, guys like that. The rotation is not a concern. It was the lineup that was a concern, and they trade for Brandon Lau from Tampa. They go and get Ryan O'Hearn. It's interesting, man. The Pirates just inked their first multi-year deal with a free agent in a decade. The last one was their largest free agent deal they've ever had a player sign. That was Ivan Nova for 3 years and $39 million, like 10 years ago. So, unorthodox spending for Pittsburgh and uncharacteristic spending for them. But job well done.
Zach Eflin signs a 1-year deal. He's back in Baltimore. They're paying for 150 innings of sub-4 earned run average. I think the Orioles are just looking for some reliability from that spot.
I think they're looking for, innings, and innings are at a premium at points. You have the conversation. It gets into, more of a profound conversation. How much do you value 180 innings if it is a middling ERA? But Eflin has been better than a middling ERA. It seemed like they were on the hunt to fill out a rotation, and they probably feel good about where they're at the front of the rotation. They've got some really fun arms at the top. Kyle Bradish leads the list, but Kyle Bradish has also been hurt twice over the last 2-3 years. So Eflin is that reliability, and I always feel like you need a little bit of both. You need the promise and you need the reliability. And he's not a projection guy at all, but I guess they're paying $10 million for 180 innings. As do other teams. We just talked about the Pirates. Mitch Keller, you're getting a 4.1, 4.2 ERA, but it's 180 innings.
Let's close out this conversation with the Cubs. They signed Hunter Harvey to a 1-year deal. It's really a bigger story, though, for me, Jack, is that I'm waiting. Maybe the Cubs are just waiting out this Tucker market. I'm not really sure. Are the Cubs just running it back?
I have no idea. I don't even know if they're in the Kyle Tucker conversation, to be honest with you. It seems like that price point has bypassed the Cubs. They're building out a bullpen, and it's all 1-year deals except for Phil Maton, who got 2 for 14 years old, or 2 for $14 million. So I don't know, man. It's fascinating to see what they're doing.
It is. If he was 14 years old, I got to get my son out there. That's for sure. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go away.
We become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology. We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carden Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way, and it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York, and now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
They couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. It's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Jack McMullen with us. Just Baseball is coming your way in about 15 minutes. We'll get a preview of that show as well. One more smallish signing. I don't want to bore everybody to tears out there, but it's just what we have in the hot stove in baseball right now. And then we're going to get to some of these names that remain out there as free agents, which is a little bizarre that two of the most coveted free agents from overseas are still out there. Real quick, J.J. Bleday, who we talked about the A's, they let him go and decided that the project was not worth resuming. I know he had a bad year last year. He had a good year the year before that. I was a little surprised that they just punted. And now he signs with the Reds. I think this is a fantastic environment, by the way, for him, Jack. I look, his splits are going to always be tough. I think he's always going to hit right-handed pitching. And the Reds ballpark is very conducive to rebuilding players' careers. Not a lot of risk here, I don't think, for the Reds.
No, not much at all. The buy-in was pretty low, and it's an incentive-based one-year deal for J.J. Bleday. They also made a move for Dane Myers. They sent a Double-A outfielder and a guy that struggled in Double-A this past year to Miami for Dane Myers. So they're trying their hand at two guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark in the right environment. Now, in cavernous ballparks like Bleday was playing in Oakland, and cavernous ballpark like Myers was playing in Miami, it's harder to get to those 15 homers that you feel like you can get to over the course of a season. But when you're playing 81 of your 162 in Cincinnati, which is the most home run friendly ballpark in baseball, that can drive confidence and it can drive offensive production. You think about guys that established confidence in Cincinnati. Eugenio Suarez, someone that established confidence. Nick Castellanos reestablished his confidence in Cincinnati before getting paid by Philadelphia. There are plenty of examples. Jonathan India, who is almost non-playable for Kansas City right now, won a Rookie of the Year because he ran in at 20 homers as a rookie in Cincinnati. So for Bleday, it's a good defender. It's a guy that can play center field. Cincinnati, I wish they shot for the stars a little bit more, but it seems safe and pretty low risk for Cincinnati and for Bleday. It's just a nice, comfortable spot, to your point.
Yeah, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then Bleday moves on to another team. Okay, so the market for the Asian players is definitely peculiar, not quite what has been in years past, especially with the player that signed the 2-year deal with the Chicago White Sox. A lot of folks felt like he was going to get more money. He did not. Are we entering that same realm here with Tatsuya Imai, who has a deadline of this week to sign with a team? I don't know what's going on here, Jack. Did we just completely, as media, misread this market? I was told this guy's getting $100 to $200 million. He still has no contract here. What's going to be? I mean, look, I know you don't know and I don't know, but boy, we're going to feel really foolish here investigating this if he only gets a 1-year deal or maybe even goes back and doesn't play in the U.S. What is going on here?
Man, I'm with you. And that seems like I guess, failure on Major League Baseball if he doesn't sign and he does go back to NPB, which is the league in Japan. But, I mean, you mentioned it. Munetaka Murakami got a 2-year, $34 million deal with the Chicago White Sox. When he hit the market, the media's assumption was that this guy was going to get $150 million as a power-hitting corner infielder, and he got 34. Tatsuya Imai, to your point, like the estimations that we've seen are $150 million for this guy. He was supposed to make as much money as like Dylan Cease. And that's just, I don't know. There could be a 9-figure deal that comes through for him, but we're kind of up against it right now. He has until Friday to sign. And then the other infielder, Kazuma Okamoto, has until next Monday to sign. I know that they typically exhaust this posting window that they have. When these teams in Japan post these players, they've got 45 days to negotiate and sign with a Major League Baseball team. And I understand that it almost never happens in the first week or two, but it feels like we're pushing later and later and you're waiting for a market to materialize for these guys. And when it takes this long for even a rumored offer to be put out there, it makes me think that you're losing out on $50 to $100 million. So I have no idea what the price is going to be for someone like Imai, but everybody around the league is calling the Murakami deal with the White Sox a major steal, and they're stunned that he got that little money allocated towards him. I feel like this is where the rest of the league can get involved and say, well, if we don't want to pay 9 figures for Imai, why don't we just offer $50 million for him and see if anybody else throws an offer at him? It is a fascinating game right now that we're playing with guys that have a lot of unknown, but have also had immense success in the second best league in the world.
Yeah, I mean, Shogo, what was his name? Akiyama? Wasn't that guy with the Reds at one point? I remember when
Cincinnati.
When he signed, it was, oh my gosh, they got a steal, and the guy was out of the league in a year. Like, you look, some of these guys end up being great, but others, you literally have no idea. And I think that that's the situation here, because look, maybe the collective bargaining agreement in the future has something to do with, I really don't know, but I guess I will be surprised, Jack, at the end of the week if this guy gets $200 million. The tea leaves are sort of reading to me like he's going to sign maybe a shorter deal, not like very similar maybe to the White Sox guy, and then put himself back on the market. And as far as this Okamoto is concerned, I mean, he has like a couple more days. I'm thinking 1-year deal for that guy.
So the head-to-head question for me with Okamoto is Eugenio Suarez, who it seems like the market is not existed for right now. But Kazuma Okamoto, he had 15 homers last year, had an OPS just under 1,000. That is an elite mark in Japan. Eugenio Suarez had 45 homers by the trade deadline. He was the most prolific bat ever traded at the deadline, but it seems like the market is non-existent for him. So if Suarez is going to get a 2-year, $40-ish million contract, is Okamoto getting that? You don't know as much about him as you do Eugenio Suarez, and you know that Suarez just flirted with 50 homers last year. I'm with you. The price point seems to be dropping with Imai. It'll be interesting to see just how low it gets, because this guy is, it seems like, based on everything that I've read and just baseball has put out, an $100 million type of talent, but maybe a team gets a nice discount for him.
We'll find out later this week. Jack, have a great show coming up. Just Baseball coming your way at 1:30 Eastern, and Jack will catch up with you after the new year. Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Love it. Happy early new year, Craig.
All right, Jack McMullen here with us from JustBaseball.com, and also broadcasts on the radio for the Miami Marlins radio network. All right, coming up next, it's time for some last licks. Could be a record-breaking day in the Music City Bowl. Also, Bijan Robinson is getting a lot of thanks from fans around the country, and the Pro Football Hall of Fame makes their announcement official as to who potentially could be the next inductees later this year. You're watching NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We'll wrap it all up.
Whether we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology. We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
When you look at this NBA Cup, you have to think about the importance. As a coach, I find a lot of importance. This wasn't a gimmick win. The Knicks earned it the hard way. And it matters in April as Mike Brown continues to build that culture in New York. And now, in my opinion, the Knicks are legit contenders to win the NBA title.
Pro Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College Basketball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Cowboys making an announcement. They've released cornerback Trayvon Diggs, who now can pass through waivers and apparently join another team for the NFL playoffs. Diggs did play this past year, didn't have the Pro Bowl season that he had in years past, but now is officially a free agent. Also, Joey Aguilar is getting ready for his big bowl appearance. Will it be his final one for the University of Tennessee? Bijan Robinson goes off last night, and I'm going to tell you who exactly is in line to be inducted in the next Pro Football Hall of Fame enshrinement. It's time now for some last licks. So Joey Aguilar is the quarterback at the University of Tennessee. Aguilar has petitioned to play yet another season of college football, and allegedly at Tennessee, I believe, next season right now, by going through some of the motions that some other players have to see if he could end up getting a 7th season of eligibility. But if he doesn't, it's sort of irrelevant, because today he's got a chance to pass one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time at Tennessee, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, Peyton Manning. In fact, if Aguilar throws for 250 yards, he will pass Manning as the all-time leading passer at the University of Tennessee. You may remember Manning played for the Vols for 4 years, did not win a college football national championship, but did put up some stellar numbers on his way to becoming one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL. Aguilar also has not stated as to whether or not this 7th season, if he does deem eligible, would be at Tennessee, but since he's been there for quite some time, it would appear that that's probably going to be the case. We'll keep an eye on the Music City Bowl today. Tennessee and Illinois, 5:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The Fantasy Football Championship did not go my way last night, folks. It did not go my way. Although I made it all the way to the fourth quarter, 12 points up. Matthew Stafford at his worst game of the season. I thought I actually had a chance to win. How crazy was that? But I ended up losing. A lot of folks went into last night being down big, but had Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons. And if you were down 30 points last night, you probably thought, well, he'll probably get 15 or 20. Bijan Robinson went off. A 93-yard touchdown, the longest run of the NFL season, to go on with the stellar season that's probably put him in line to be the number 1 overall pick in fantasy football next season. And last night on social media, Bijan was getting his props. Everybody out there thanking him for winning their fantasy football championship. Certainly a lot of other players, had factors in the game last night, but he was overwhelmingly the star of the game. And I did not know, by the way, over the course of his entire career, this guy's been the healthiest running back in the National Football League as well. So congrats to all of you who won fantasy football championships. I finished second, 3rd time in 4 years I played for the championship. First time I've lost in the championship, but trust me, I'll be back there yet again. Okay, finally, the Pro Football Hall of Fame doesn't make an official announcement. They put the names out of the Pro Football Hall of Fame finalists. So during the Super Bowl week, we will find out who the next enshrinees are to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And remember, there's several of them. They automatic. It's not like baseball where you have to vote and there's only a couple. I believe football's 5 or 6, if I'm not mistaken, that get in. Among the list of players who 100% will get in, I'll give them to you. Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald, right? Am I wrong about that? Those guys are absolutely getting into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, here are some other names that you may think. Frank Gore, too? I think so, but I don't. Some people don't. Just a compiler, they've said. I don't know. I thought Gore was amazing. I covered Gore at University of Miami. Frank Gore, Eli Manning, Adam Vinatieri. We got to put another kicker in the Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne. Some people feel like he has a good shot. Torrey Holt takes another shot at it. Also, Luke Kuechly, Darren Woodson, Terrell Suggs, among other names. But I would say Drew Brees and Fitzgerald are 2 locks, absolute locks. And then beyond that, we'll see who ends up getting in. And it's always a great moment because they knock on the guy's door at the hotel. They tell them they're in, etc. It's a blast. They'll do this, by the way, Honors Week during the Super Bowl week in Santa Clara, California. All right, that will do it for our show today. Quick programming note. We do not have a show here on NewsWire tomorrow, so we're taking the day off. We also do not have a show on January the 1st. There's a ton of college football bowl games, so we get a couple of days off. That's me, Luke, and Frank. We're out. But we will be back on Friday for our next edition of NewsWire. We'll recap everything that happened in the college football playoff. And there's also bowl games coming up this weekend, too, so stay on the grid for that. Thanks to all of our great guests here on the show today. We had Bill Bender from Sporting News. We had Dustin Gawker. Also, thanks to Simon Applebaum for coming in the studio as well. And most importantly, thanks to all of you. Our streaming numbers for this show have been outstanding. I've been provided them, and I've been looking at them. And I just want to send a special thank you to everyone and all of you out there making SportsGrid part of your day. And thank you, of course, to SportsGrid as well. It was a fantastic year for me here again, and I'm looking forward to doing it with you guys again next year. Thanks to Luke and Frank.